keep on past tomorrow too. We're making good time today, so.
It's the benefit of the sandwich. It doesn't
That's right.
Just
knock you to sleep.
Actually, I think we're ready to go.
All right, great. So I wanted to give a quick update on our new schools that have opened, and then what our RTO cohort is looking like right now. We had 7 new schools open. Last year, all of our RTO schools had to operate under a contingency plan, meaning they like pushed back their calendar or something because of facility issues. This year, we only had 2 that had to do that. So all 7 are open now. Almost all of them have had a site visit from the RTO lead, Natasha, and all but I believe maybe all of them opened under enrolled. Not one has opened significantly under enrolled, and I'll be speaking about that in a second. But just kind of for your knowledge, we definitely saw a difficulty if schools meeting their enrollment targets this year. For our RTO schools, which you can see on the board here, I also posted this to eBoard, but we have 3 schools that are currently in RTO and have not requested a delay. Agape in Cumberland, Flat Rock in Hendersonville, and Riverside Leadership Academy in Craven. We had 3 movement schools that are currently in RTO: Movement School Raleigh, Movement School Northeast Charlotte, Movement School West Charlotte. We just received word maybe a week or so ago that they are requesting delays for all 3 of those schools. So I don't have it. It has not been approved yet by our office, who can approve a 1-year delay. But I put it on here as in process. We're just waiting. We're waiting on all of the paperwork. So that will be, so those 3 schools, once approved, will go into the following year's cohort. We also have Dogwood Classical Academy. They are currently in RTO operating under a 2-year delay, so they're in year 2 of a delay. And that is due to land use and facility issues. North Oak Academy, they are currently, this is a Durham school. They applied, I think maybe in 2020, and they have had 3 delays. They are only allowed 3 delays because they have been granted a delay under the legislation that allows a delay due to a land use dispute, and they have been under in litigation with Durham County. West Triangle High School in Orange County is in their year 1 delay. Nalanda Academy is in a year 1 delay. That's scheduled for Wake County. Great Opportunities Boundless Innovation, otherwise known as Go Big, in Mecklenburg County is under a delay. Honor Preparatory Academy in Mecklenburg, also under a delay. And then finally, we had Greenville Prep, which I've forwarded you their withdrawal. So out of a large cohort of RTO schools, we only have 3 currently that are not operating under a delay. Any questions on those? All right, we'll keep you posted.
I just have a comment. I have asked or talked to a couple people about this, but I would, if we have legislative contacts, if we look at this, the environment is really, really difficult to get a school open, and particularly if you're not with an EMO. I really think we should have an option for, if we have accelerated, why can we not have extended timeline? Like a 2-year ramp where you have ample time. When we applied for the West Triangle High School, I said in the interview, we are going to request a delay immediately because we know it's not going to be possible. And we actually had a great site plan that got completely blocked because of politics this fall. Like, it is really hard.
It's real.
It is real. And so it's like, why are we pressing people to do this faster than they need to? The work takes a long time. So we really need the legislature to allow where you can select 1, 2, or 3 options. That's
Yeah, I think in some states it's kind of a nuance to that. It's not necessarily you're selecting 1, 2, or 3, but I think it's, I may be making this up slightly, but it's like you've got your charter, you've got 3 years to get it open, you've got 5 years to get it open.
Well, it's like, why are we forcing people to do this on a set timeline? I know it helps the Office of Charter Schools probably can manage some of their workflow, but it's like, could we just say you have 3 years to get open? Like, why? because I think it creates anxiety, it makes the financing process difficult, it makes land, I mean, it's just, it really makes it difficult. I've lived through this a little bit in the last year, but like, I know you all have.
I was sweating it last year.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like,
Same thing.
why? And it's almost like you're penalized for the delay.
Yeah.
All right. We will keep you guys updated on that. All right, we are going to turn now to School of the Arts for Boys, SABA. This was one of our new schools opened this fall. We have board and school leadership representation here. On the slides, you'll see the list of the school leader is Valencia Toomer, who most of you have spoke with because, you know, the school has been an applicant and through the RTO process. And their board members, several, I believe, of which are online now, you can see up there. They have been asked to appear before you today because they are under 80 enrolled students. I wanted to give, because this school came before the original CSAB in 2020 for an application, I wanted to give a quick review of the timeline of the schools for those of you who were not here at that time. So in 2020, they applied as an accelerated application with plans to open in fall 2021. SABA, if you remember, is a very unique and specific mission geared towards boys, and it's a school of the arts. In 2021, February 4th, 2021, State Board approved the application, and so they entered RTO. And then in June of that year, they were approved to transition to a standard timeline, allowing time for SABA to increase enrollment because they had been on a pretty short kind of ramp up to get started because there was extra, I believe there was some extra time needed for some legal research into the single gender question. And then in 2022, they came before the state board, you and the state board, and requested a slight change to enrollment. They added sixth grade and they increased the enrollment projection from 110 to 116. And in June 3rd, 2022, our office approved a delay, which amended the opening date to August 2023, and that is when they opened just this past August. The current enrollment situation, they have an ADM of 48 per our PMR 1. The Office of School Business just placed them on governance noncompliance disciplinary, which is our noncompliance rule that has several different reasons you could be placed on noncompliance, and one of them is being under 80 enrolled. And when they're placed on, when a school is placed on noncompliance disciplinary by school business, especially if it has to do with ADM, they will be placed on monthly allotments. So now instead of getting, 2 more drops, they will get monthly allotments. The 80, a requirement to have 80 students does not come from our office. It is actually in statute. So you can see the statute here. In the application requirements in general statute, there is a number of them, and the 13th requirement that must be stated in the application is that the number of students to be served shall be at least 80, and the number of teachers to be employed shall be at least 3. However, the charter school may serve fewer than 80 students or employ fewer than 3 teachers if the application contains a compelling reason, such as the school would serve a geographically remote and small student population. That request was not made in their original application. Just for information purposes, we do have one school that has made that request out of all of our charter schools, and has been granted it. It's a school that is operating on the very far end of the Outer Banks, and they have been approved in their original application to operate under 80. So the next steps, due to the under enrollment and the non-compliance, we've asked the board and school leadership to have to present to you today regarding the low enrollment, for you to be able to ask questions and get a better understanding of where the school is at financially and operationally. Any questions from me before I turn it over to Ms. Toomer?
Thank you for that background. How many board members do we have today?
It looks like we have 3 up there.
And how many board members do they have total?
Let's see, how many do you have total? 7.
So could I ask a question about, our statute requires that they have 80 students unless they have a compelling reason that is articulated. does that reason have to be articulated in the application?
I think there could definitely be an argument, yes, because this statute is the application requirements, that would have to be stated in the application, although we have had a previous school, under these similar circumstances, make a request after the fact, but
So in the past, we've had a school that stated they would have more than 80, ended up having less than 80, and
they made a case, they argued for a compelling reason, but that argument did not succeed.
okay.
So just to clarify, the only school that was approved under the minimum of 80 was the school that actually in their application stated that they were asking for a waiver at that time, not after they opened.
Which is clearly within the statute.
Yeah, that's within the statute.
Right.
What's not in the statute is you didn't ask for a waiver during the application. You've not met the minimum. Now, giving the opportunity to continue without that minimum being met. The statute doesn't support that.
Correct, we only have-
Is that in fact at odds with the statute, is my question. Is that fact pattern at odds with what the statute allows?
Well, we've never approved anyone after the fact to be, this board and state board has never approved any school after the fact.
I guess part of the question is, can we, or is it at odds with the statute?
I don't know that I can make that call for you.
I think the statute's pretty clear that it requires a minimum of 80 students. And there's no history of a school that who hadn't, during the application process, asked for a waiver of that, which is the one on the Outer Banks, which was approved. There was one example of a school who didn't meet 80, came back after the fact and saying, please allow us to operate under that state minimum, and that was denied.
Correct.
And was that denied by judgment, or was it denied because it's not in compliance with the statute?
I don't know the answer to that. I wasn't here at that time, but
Okay.
I would have my educated guess on why it was denied.
All right. Okay, let me hold on. Yep.
While we're waiting, Mrs. Timmer, can you verify again the exact number of board members? Because on your website, it looks like you have 8 plus Mr. Wiley, who's a artist in residence. So how many board members do you actually have?
So Mr. Wiley is a founding board member, so that's probably why you see him there. So you have our board chair, who was on the call, Dr. Alston, Dr. Anderson, who is also our vice chair, Tavares Toomer, treasurer, Ms. Gardner, our bookkeeper, and you have Sonia Logan, and you have Tamir Cox.
So 6. Okay. So those on the website that say founding board member really aren't on the.
Yeah, it says founding board member versus current. All right, Dr. Alston, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, I can't see anybody in the room. My apologies for my absence today, but there are a couple of work commitments that I could not get around. However, I'm here. Thank you for this time. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. So just a little bit of what we're going to talk about, a few ASABA accomplishments, where we are, our pulse, our financial viability, our strategy to moving forward, and talk about the enrollment, as you just mentioned, and the future of SABA. You can go to the next slide. Of course, these are our board members. Several of us are here today. Dr. Anderson could not be here today as he is teaching at a university, so he wasn't able to get around that as well. So you can move to the next slide, please. Just to remind you of our mission, the School of the Arts for Boys Academy empowers and builds culturally and linguistically diverse boys to be strong, creative academic scholars, critical thinkers, and community leaders through a culturally responsive arts-based education, which is one of the unique things about our school. One, it's an all-boys school. Two, it is an arts program. You can move to the next. Some of our demographics include 50% economically disadvantaged students, 50% students in single-parent households, 22% students are neurodivergent, 40% free reduced lunch recipients, 30% students receiving socio-emotional support, and 10% students in households where parents are receiving domestic abuse counseling as reported, and 25% students with behavior improvement plans or the process of receiving an FBA. You move to the next, please. Some of our accomplishments, of course, they're not all, and Mrs. Toomer will talk a little bit about some of the accomplishments and things that she's been seeing every day. Academic success, 90% of our students are on the honor roll. First quarter, we've had improved data trends in BIP students, 100% of attendance to parent-teacher conferences. While we do have 48 students, none of those students have decided to leave our school since the day we opened. And I'm very excited about the future of Saba. Then discover reading ability of a student whose previous data indicated inability to read and comprehend. Of course, we are incorporating arts enrichment with introduction to music, highlighting drumming. We do have an amazing soccer team, creating and building community for some of the boys, and participating in a daily affirmation just to set the tone of the day and also build student morale. These are some of the faces of Saba. And you can move to the next, Ashley. Yes, and so these are some of the testimonials. I just wanted to put faces to our students and their experiences. I'll just highlight Elijah's. What I really like about Saba is that I like the facility. It's really nice. I love playing outside with my friends. I really hope that the school grows. I love my teachers. Are really nice. My homework is really good, and I'm really improving in math. You know, the stories of the students and the excitement that they have, just wanted to share those things. And we also have some of the recorded stories and testimonials of our students and staff members on our Facebook page as well. Move to the next, please. And with that being said, we'll pass it over to our Toomer, who is our treasurer for the board. He will talk about our financial viability, how we're going to move forward, and where we are currently and what our strategy will be going forward.
Hi, everybody. Real quick, as you can just see from the slides here, we're just listing out our fundings and our revenues that we plan to do, being that we know we are under the allotment of kids with 48, and typically, and we're having guys come through the door pretty much each day, seems like. We have noticed that we are going to have to supplement some of our funding. And as you can see here, our big thing is going to open up a daycare. Now, open up a daycare here, or pre-K, I should say. Open up a pre-K here. We took over a former daycare. That's our building. And I'm talking with individuals at the Chatham County Partnership for Children. They have said that there's a need for more daycare in the town, of a growing town of Pittsburgh right now. So we feel like that can help us supplement some of this, the shortcomings until the following year. We're also working with a fundraiser as well to gain funds. We have a few people that are ready to be committed to what we do right now. We say we have 20,000 committed right now. And we're looking at November, the day of giving, and through December to really hammer home a lot of this to gain our fundraiser dollars. As you can see, we also have the Access Grant funds. That this number here was the last amount that was approved. We're looking to do a little more from our new Access grant, being that the program is closing for the year. So this is where we are. The expenses here, we have adjusted our expenses due to staffing and everything else that we have going on. We limited some of the staff there, and we've also just cut down on things that we could to get our numbers down. So we'll be able to move forward come the next year. And as far as the next year is concerned, we're looking to add more grades, go down. That'll help us transition from our pre-K to our K2, and all up to 7th grade. So that's where we stand financially right now. This is what we want to do, and we understand the challenges that has come with this, but we're putting plans in place to make sure we can be here and survive. Can move on.
So right now, with our enrollment, I think when you guys recorded the original data, we were at 48. Right now, in Power School, we're at 50, and we enrolled 3 boys yesterday, so we're at about 53 right now. And we know that the delays really impacted our numbers, our enrollment, letting the community know, is this really a reality? When you have schools that, are building momentum and say, hey, we're opening, and then a facility, kind of falls through. And then you build that momentum, and then the facility falls through. You have to then turn around and gain that trust in the community to say, well, I don't really want to get too excited about SABA. Are we really going to open? And, myself and the board really believes that that's where we are in our community. We have daily visits at SABA, meaning the location. I definitely invite all of you to come and physically see SABA. I know that you guys have not had a chance to physically come out and visit us yet, but if you take a look at our location, we are in a prime time spot. 87 15501, which we encourage the daily visits, and I know that that's pretty abnormal for what traditional public schools, kind of want to see. But right now, our community is wanting to touch us and feel us and really make sure that we are really real. And I believe that all of the inquiries that we're continuing to get will turn over into enrollment. Now, will it happen as quickly as maybe we want, or the CSRB would like, or even the state? Maybe not, but we have already seen upticks in our visitors, uptick in those that are definitely interested. Many of our families who did not ultimately sign up, and some that even came along the way, they have girls that are attached to those boys and did not want to kind of uproot at the moment for the, given the uncertainty of where SABA would be. So again, that has also impacted our enrollment. The boys that are there, the families that are there, they are super satisfied. We sent out a parent survey, satisfaction survey, as well as a student satisfaction survey, and everything is trending exactly the way we anticipated. It's kind of surreal when you put a school like SABA on paper, and you submit the application and you go through this entire process, but to actually see it in the flesh and to see it as a reality, to see it put in place for the boys who really needed it. And I know on paper you see the 50 or you may see the 53, but it's really important, and I know that we've listed some of the demographics there in that PowerPoint. I have been a principal with a student population of over 1,300 kids. I have been a principal with a student population over 600 kids. I have also been a principal with a student population of over 400 kids. And now I am the head of school of a student population of 50. And what I will tell you is this, is that it has taken more energy, more resources and time commitment, more community support with these 50 students than I have seen even with the 1,300 high schoolers that I was responsible for. But what I can tell you is this, is our board remains committed. I do not want you to think that their absence indicates that they are not present and presently involved with SABA, because they are. We have at least one board member every week that has come to visit SABA and hands-on and has been there. I really wished that I could have packed up the boys, packed up some families, and brought them here to see you in the flesh, to see you and talk to you. But I do want you, Dr. Austin shared with you about the who am I, the daily affirmations. And it's really important for you guys to know the types of things that we are doing at Saba, the types of the seeds that we're planting at Saba. I will share this before I let you hear the voices of the boys, is what's very unique about a small school setting. And we submitted a compelling letter for reasoning for letting us operate under the 80. We have submitted that. It is in writing. But one of the unique things about a smaller school versus a 1,300 student population school or even 500 is that it's real personal. We have students in our building, and this happened to us just this week. We had a family of a fifth grader who there was a shooting in his neighborhood. And this is not a far off community. This is Chatham County, this is Lee County, this is Randolph County, Harnett, Wake. This is right here in our backyard. We had a shooting that happened in the boys' backyard. And with police surrounding everywhere, who did the mother call? She called me. And I point that out because in a larger setting, you're not going to get that. You're not going to be able to reach out and touch these boys the ways in which they need to be touched. So, of course, I go to the place with all of that involvement and I remove the boy. I have him. I bring him to school. I do what is needed to be done. I had a parent to share with me in the testimonials about how she felt like her son was going to not make it, not live, if she kept him in the place where he was. And I bring those stories up to say is that you cannot isolate 48 or 50 or even 53. You have to really take a look at the whole child. And when you look at these demographics alone, and we have 10% of students, and this is only what's reported, that the parents are receiving domestic abuse counseling. I have attended probably twice a month, every Wednesday in Siler City, a domestic abuse counseling session with our parents. And so these boys, when you talk about having an all-boys school and them being in an environment where they are seeing males, positive male role models versus what they are getting at home, that is the super importance of Saba. Which you guys obviously deemed, compelling enough even 2 and 3 years ago. But I do want you to hear, if this picks up very well in this mic, I do want you to hear the voices of our boys, and it'll be super quick, maybe 20 seconds, if I could get your time. I'm gonna see if I can pick this up in the microphone.
Who am I? I am a king. I am part of a brotherhood of strong leaders. I am unapologetic about who I am and what I stand for. I am intelligent and learn in many ways. I am destined for greatness. I am powerful beyond measures. I am a king.
And that's going out to 50 boys every day, letting them know, regardless of their environment, regardless of what they are going through, they are kings, and that is how we treat them. So we are here today as a board, as a head of school, to share with you a little bit more in depth about Saba. But the reason that this school was approved even back in 2021 are the same reasons that we need to continue to press forward for the sake of the boys. When the Vice Chair Duncan stated during that application process that we were the only school that exhibited all 6 characteristics of a charter school, that still stands today. So we're standing here, standing firm on our beliefs, and hope that we're continuing to partner with you guys as we press forward with Saba. Madam Chair. Dr. Austin.
Yes, I'm sorry. My earpieces are going in and out. So yeah, with that being said, I don't even know how to follow up with our head of school. She gave, you can feel the passion. I know the work that she puts in every day to make sure that the boys have the environment they need We recognize, as Mr. Toomer mentioned, we recognize that the financial status and our budget is very important to make sure that happens. And we have been working with Dr. Anderson, who has a history in fundraising for some other schools. So he does have some meetings set up over the next 2 weeks with some of the community partners so that we can build some community partnerships with some of the folks or the companies in the areas and meet with their corporate social responsibility contacts to make sure that, you know, some of the things that we have for our students, they can be supplemented to build programming. And as Mr. Toomer also mentioned, we've looked at some of the staff and where can we cut back. And so we've had those discussions. And so I will open it up for questions or comments that you might have.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for the introduction and the summary of where you're at and the voices of the students. I'm sure we do have some questions from CSRB members. I'm going to start, and I'm just going to jump right in, like, because you heard kind of the discussion we had before. There's a state, it's not our policy that the minimum is 80. It's not the Office of Charter Schools policy that it's 80. It's written into state statute, approved by the state legislature. You've had, in 2020, you got the approval to open up in 2021. But like many charter schools, you didn't just start in 2020. You would have started this journey well before that. And yet, it's 2023, and you're not even at half of the enrollment that you need, or just at half, roughly.
What is the actual number?
Well, she said 53.
We have 50 in
but-
Power School and then
but,
53.
you know, every
that
student you're
enroll
enrolling now,
last
too,
night.
you're not getting state funding for.
Right.
You do know that, right?
Understood.
Okay. So this journey started well before 2020. And here we are in 2023. And we can bicker on 5 or 6 students, but you're half at the enrollment that you need to be. The board has been before us numerous times. We've heard great stories, great excitement, great optimism. It's all been great. And you're not there. Why? And it can't be because of families who also have girls. That they've known that all along. Like, so why are we here?
Well, the first thing is that we actually did begin our journey in 2020. Whenever I resigned from Chatham County Schools, I resigned in June. I began writing the charter in June. I turned in the application in November of 2020. So we really did start in 2020. To say that we can't say it's because of girls, I would have to disagree there, because we can. That is a factor. We're not saying that those are only factors, but that is a factor. It is a factor because we have boys who, at the time of our original application, they were second graders. So now the bulk of those, which when we saw our trends in our enrollments when we first started this journey, our high numbers were upper elementary going into the middle school area. And we also attribute that to they've been in school, they've seen the impacts and effects that schooling has had on their sons. And so those were our high numbers, you know, and each year we pretty much lost about 30 to 35 boys each time we had to turn that over. So yes, when I say having girls is a factor, it is. We have 7 families right now who those boys right now, they are 5th graders. And they have girls that are attached to them that just started kindergarten, some are in 1st grade, whose families are saying, I don't want to split them up, Ms. Toomer, but we're going to commit to you for next year. You know, so we already have those conversations. So yes, that is a factor of why we are here. The fact, as I mentioned in my opening statement regarding our enrollment, another factor is because we had the 2 and 3 delays because we didn't land our facility the first and the second time. You know, that impacted us while we're here. here. We also are here, and we stated this even in some of our documented conversations of, we had 13 families that walked away from us just days before our school started when they received phone calls from the Office of Charter Schools, and we have that. Though these are contributing factors, they're not isolated by any means. But when you talk about how are we here, those are some of the things, of why we're here. We're also here, because we are a grassroots initiative school. We do not have a major EMO or CMO that is behind us that can put forth, millions of dollars to help, front us or, dish out cash for us. We don't have that. We basically saw a need, wrote an application, fulfilled it, state deemed it a compelling reason, state deemed it saying it is meeting 6 of the characteristics, and that still stands. But those are contributing factors to why we are here.
What I would like to add as well is there was a lot of time, even once this year when we came before the board earlier this year, when you voted to move forward, there was a lot of education for the demographic that we had to touch in terms of what an actual charter school was or is. And like Valencia, Mrs. Toomer just mentioned, educating the population on the school. And it took multiple times to educate the school.
But
And part of that, I
respectfully, that's
mean,
not unique
I'm
to your
not saying
school.
that that's the only reason, but that does take a little bit of time to kind of gather that support. The other thing I was gonna say is the pandemic kind of slowed us down a little bit as well. And I realized that everybody was impacted by the pandemic, right? We could only do what we could do in that time frame during the planning of opening the school.
There are some issues that all schools face, and it sounds like some of those are issues that all schools that have opened have faced. But I was supportive when you came before the board before, but I made the observation at that time, you're a school of the arts for boys. And my interactions with other people who run School of the Arts is they get a lot more girls than boys. So you've limited your appeal to people that have boys and maybe only boys because they don't want to split their families up, and those boys who are interested in the arts. And it's easy to get excited about your school. I have no doubt you're a wonderful school for the kids that are there. But I'm afraid you don't have enough, that your market, that you've defined yourself so narrowly that you won't be able to find enough boys who don't have siblings, who are interested in the arts, to be a viable charter school. That was my concern at the time, and we were told, no, that won't be a problem. And now it turns out, just a few months later, it's a problem, and it turns out to be a very big problem. And I don't doubt you're the best place for the people for the kids you got. But you don't have enough kids.
Have you had to lay off staff?
No. No.
I have on my notes that your break-even number is 88 students financially. You mentioned fundraising. Is that the sole thought of getting you having 53 and your break-even point with your budget is 88, that's a huge gap. So is it fundraising? Is that, what are you looking at to fill that gap?
I'll let Mr. Toomer talk through that, but as we shared in the slide is that we were, working through our pre-K status, because, right now we have 2 facilities on our campus. Right. And right now, we had folks to already preliminary visit our campus. We can have about 36 students, 4-year-olds, 3 and 4-year-olds, and that would garner what you saw on the slide there, about $200,000 for the remaining parts of the year. So yes, the fundraising, but the other piece would be,
That's where you're
you know,
hanging
pulling
your hat
that,
is on-
you know,
on the
is
pre-
with the pre-K. Taurus, if you have anything to add, you can.
No, you stated it.
So the proceeds generated by starting a new pre-K is going to offset the budget gaps that you have by not hitting the enrollment? Is that
You,
understanding?
Ashley, do you mind pulling that slide back up just for visual?
Correct.
So that's that's gonna be then $200,000 in profit for the pre-K, because I'm assuming that you've got
Does
to-
You have
anybody
to have
have,
people to run the
yeah,
pre-K.
does anybody have experience running a highly profitable pre-K in your organization? Because it's gonna have to be highly profitable to create this much cash flow.
As far as running a daycare, no, but, you know, given the fact of, you know, just with my on-site and degrees, then, you know, we're already, you know, at a level 4, you know, daycare facility. And so with the NC pre-K folks, they basically recommended for us to make sure that we hire a highly qualified, you know, lead teacher, you know, to make sure that the daycare is ran the way that it should be. So with my license, I would be the overseer of that portion of the business with the 36 students. So that's 2 classrooms of about 18 kids, and making sure that we have that licensed person and an assistant there to accommodate the needs for the pre-K.
I have a question for finance. If I'm reading this, email that we got today right. It says an estimate of state funding for SABA. If I'm reading it correctly, it looks like they've already used 51% of their funds for the year in the first 2 months. Is that accurate? I want to make sure I'm reading this correctly.
Come from Acadia, yes. Does that come from Acadia? Yes.
No, I'm speaking to school business, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Mr. Toomer.
Shirley McFadden, representing school business here. That is correct. Currently, they've used 157,000 out of when we estimate that we're going to take them down to 309,000. So they've used 51% of the funds that their state funds that they're going to get for the year. That's correct.
And there's, so November, December, January, February, March,
6.
April, May, 6 more months.
So they've got 48% of state revenue that has to cover them for the next 6 months.
That's correct.
And they've used 51% in
So
2
can
months.
someone
two.
someone on the board explain how you're going to do that?
Just as we stated earlier, we were going to use the monies built from the daycare and also running a highly successful fundraiser, as we stated earlier, to supplement the cash for the remaining of the year.
That's a big if.
Right now, we have about, I think it's 20,000 or so committed dollars for fundraisers. We have our pretty much professional fundraiser. She has raised millions and millions of dollars for organizations, and so she has, you know, offered basically to run our fundraising, you know, capital and campaigns for SABA. So again, that's also a part of, you know, us having to press forward through those fundraising dollars.
Mr. Godwin?
So specifically, which programs are you using for fundraising or activities?
What do you mean?
Fundraising by just asking people to donate, or you having runs or walks, or just what are you doing? to
All of the
raise the
above.
funds
Go ahead.
specifically?
Right. Sorry.
So, and we put some of this in our letter as far as our compelling reason to operate under 80. But we have a fundraising gala that's coming up. We have a golf tournament. When we originally started this journey, our golf tournament raised about almost $20,000, you know, and that was proven very successful, and it helped us kind of operate when we didn't have any funds coming in. So we're going to repeat that golf fundraiser. We have Giving Tuesday, which, you know, last year I think it brought in maybe, and don't quote me, Tavares, you have to fact check me, maybe anywhere from $6,000 to $7,000 just on that one giving day. So we also have an event that's coming up at the right before Thanksgiving that we'll have as part of a fundraising event as well. So those are just a few examples of what we're doing.
And as we stated earlier as well, Dr. Anderson, he has been a successful fundraising in his endeavors throughout life. And he said that this is, you know, a decent ask. He's going out and asking, you know, as part of his deals, going out and asking, knocking on doors of companies and letting them know who we are. And he feels very strongly about what we can and can't do in this space.
And some of this is also still pending because we do have meetings already set up for some finishing up the month of October, beginning in November, with some major donors who have expressed interest in SABA and in planting seeds for us, you know, and so some of those conversations are even now as we speak pending, you know, meetings one-on-one. So that's another tactic, is that we're having to sit down one-on-one with major funders and talk about our mission and vision and garner support for the school. Some have noted how much they may be willing to donate, and others are more so, let me hear from you yet again. And we put together an ask, or pretty much a marketing booklet that talked about the needs that we have for SABA. We talk about in this booklet, you know, raising funds for uniforms or raising funds for technology needs, or we've pretty much outlined the things that we want donors to be able to support us with. And there are some donors who are asking us for more itemized information on some of those asks. So if we say technology, what exactly are they wanting to fund? If we say we need, you know, arts equipment, what exactly are we asking them to fund? So those conversations are pending these meetings as well.
So I want to piggyback off of something Dr. Danielson said earlier.
I didn't hear you.
I want to piggyback off of a comment Dr. Danielson made earlier. I too supported this throughout this process, even through Ready to Open. And we've always heard you say, the students will come. Just have faith in us. The students are coming. With activity, the students will come. And they haven't. And now today I'm here and I'm being told that you're going to, through fundraising and opening a daycare, proceeds from a daycare that does not yet exist, is going to bridge the gap for you to continue operation in this school.
The students will come, and they're still coming.
Can you at least understand how that's a real stretch for us to kind of get our mind wrapped around?
Mm-hmm. We certainly do. We certainly do understand that. You know, we're still saying the same thing. Students will come. Students have been coming. You know, again, the rate at which they're coming, we're not sure, but they are coming.
Why didn't you were heading into the school year, your building also got delayed because of some.
I can't hear you.
You were heading into the school year, you had to delay by a week or 10 days because of some issues with the building. Why at that time, you knew you weren't at 80. Why at that time didn't you say, give us another year ready to open? Because instead you've launched into this, and now we are in the position. We took an oath this morning to uphold the laws of the North Carolina statutes and Constitution. And the law is clear. If you don't have 80, you don't get to operate. And you don't get to submit the compelling interest after the fact. You submit the compelling interest during the application process.
Well, I think from some of the conversations that you guys have had is that still needs some clarification. Can we submit the compelling reason after the fact? Because you guys have already notated that there was a school that submitted a compelling reason after the fact.
And it was denied.
So, understood. I don't know their reasoning, but you guys also have to understand the fight that we have and the importance, you know, of the school. We opened, you know, because there's always this, you know, can we keep moving? It's important enough. It was important enough for us to do so, you know, even with the 50 that we had. And we're not going to stop. Like it is, I mean, our vision and mission remains. You know, our passion behind this school, it remains. You know, my question is, would you rather hang tight and allow Saba to plow through, you know, exhaust every means, plan A, B, and C, or would you rather, you know, open up more alternative schools? Would you rather fill a prison? Because that's where we are. That's the reality of the data that we have. When you take a look, when we have social workers in our school and resource officers in our school building and counselors and psychologists in our school building, and they look at this data, they are shaking their heads at how do we believe that we're going to turn over the trajectory of the boys. But that's because we don't want more alternative schools. We don't want more prisons. We want to make sure that we're meeting the boys where they are. So those 50 boys that signed up, it was important for us to open up regardless of the 80. And I also understand that, you know, that you guys have shared, you know, that yes, you do support Saba, you have supported, you know, but my question right now, when we look at the Office of Charter Schools, how physically at times are we supporting? And this is not just Saba. This is just charter schools in general, you know, because right now you guys believed in us and it sounds like you still do. So then my question is, what are those other sit down areas of support to come out and say, Principal Toomer, here's what I'm seeing. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Or board, let me come to your meeting. Have you guys tried this? Have you thought about this? Because it is important to us and we want your support and we need your support. And I want the families to know that they also have your support. So yes, it was important enough for us to open up with those 50 kids, you know, regardless if it was under that 80. We have made history in this state as an all-boys school. We are the only all-boys public charter school in the entire state. We made history, you know, so it might be that we're making history on getting approval of a compelling reason to operate, you know, so that's what we're asking. And that's all we can do is ask, continue to show families that their boys are important enough for us to continue to go down this journey. That's the only thing that we can say.
Quickly.
I guess like I'm not sure if this is much a question. What I'm hearing, one, this seems to be, you know, it's very inspiring. I get it. My question is just financially, it's just, I mean, it's not,
I don't
it's
think.
not really about like the emotional, and also, well, okay, part of it is, now I remember my question, so part of it is just financially. It doesn't seem that they're gonna make it through the year. The other piece is, you know, I guess my question is, what you're describing is kind of an alternative model. That wasn't, if I remember correctly from the application, that wasn't the model, right?
I'm not describing an alternative model. What do you mean by that?
You described like the number of counselors, the support, the kind of all of the things that you need to put in place, what you're seeing. And frankly, those staff ratios are really small in terms of the number of kids to staff members, which that to me is more of like an alternative model.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
What
like,
are you asking me?
Is that the kind of direction that the school is going?
We are a public charter school. These are the students who came to us. So if this is what an alternative model looks like, that's not what we wrote. These are the students that we received. These are the students that we have to serve. It is important for us to give you guys those demographics so that you understand the level of support that is required for Saba, for the staff, you know, for those things that we have in place.
No, I'm not questioning like the students themselves. I'm talking about the amount of support that you have for the students is seeming potentially unsustainable without more funding, which it is kind of playing out that way.
So what are you suggesting? Are you
Well,
making a suggestion? I'm not
no,
following you.
I'm like, that was not, my clarification is that was not part of the, that wasn't the
Not an
application
alternative.
structure. Have you, how many staff have you cut since September?
We haven't cut anyone.
Because we're seeing 5 staff members, 5 teachers, plus you, plus an instructional support person, plus 2 admin people.
So you guys may have been given numbers on those core classroom teachers, which is the 3. But no, we haven't cut anyone.
Well, there was 5 teachers in this budget.
So, if I may follow up, you built this budget around 116 students.
Can you
got-
go to those staff
you've got-
on this?
Somewhere between 48 and 53, of which not all receive total funding. How do you not cut? Personnel is always the most biggest line item in every school budget everywhere in the United States.
We didn't hire for many of those positions, you know, we didn't
So you're
hire.
not fully, you didn't start the school year fully staffed.
Well,
based upon
fully
the budget.
staffed, basically, we hired according to a formula of how many students. So we didn't just go out and hire 10 staff members because we put it in the budget. We hired incrementally. So as we had those students, then we knew we could hire a teacher. When we had another 12, we hired a teacher. So we didn't just go out and say, oh, this is in our budget, let's hire, because then we'd be coming back to adults and personnel to say, hey, we have to cut. So fortunately, we have not had to, you know, get rid of anybody because
So
of
all these people still
of
work
number.
here?
Let me see.
No, Morris.
Oh, Morris, yes, Morris resigned. Morris resigned. Apologies.
I mean,
there. Yeah.
because what you do need to do, like, if you were coming to us and saying, we're running essentially like a one-room schoolhouse at this point with like me, like you're teaching, plus maybe 2 other teachers. I have a part-time EC person that's coming like a couple hours a day. And like a $12 an hour person answering the phone. I might be like, we're gonna get to the end, we're gonna make it financially.
What's your monthly payroll running?
Around about 32,000.
And what's your mortgage payment? Your lease payment?
15.
A month.
Okay, I'm gonna give you an opportunity for any kind of closing comment, and then we're gonna go into discussion. You or any member of the board. Yeah.
Dr. Austin, do you have any closing comments?
Like I said, I completely and wholeheartedly stand with the board and our head of school and our mission. I do recognize that you all have a fiduciary responsibility to not only Saba, but to the citizens of the state of North Carolina. So we do not take that lightly. We are at this conjunction. It appeared to be a clause in the statute regarding that. And I did not see a time frame, but I understand your point. We do hope that you continue to support us and that you recognize that we also have a responsibility to our students and staff. And so we do appreciate the time today. I will pass over to Tavares or Mr. Toomer or Mrs. Gardner if you have anything. If not, then we would give it over to the board.
Last thing I would say is that we are making strides and efforts, as we stated before, to make sure we meet our financial goals inside of what we're trying to accomplish here. As you tried to state, this is not an alternative school; it's a school of the arts for boys, and we did, sort of make our niche market very, very niche in this case. But we know we can serve them. We know we're trying to serve them. And we totally understand that finance is a big piece. of the ongoing issue. And we've addressed this in many ways of saying, hey, we're going to work on a fundraiser because, a lot of schools may not do that. And we're going to add a daycare as well. And being that we are a place that took over a daycare, as I stated earlier, the Chatham County Partnership for Children saying that this is a very necessary thing inside of the community. So we feel like we're going to get those numbers pretty easily based on the need of the county and Pittsburgh itself. We're just here. We're just trying to get everything done. And we are willing to make the adjustments when the adjustments need to be made in every case, just to be viable for the year. So wanted to close out with that, guys. And as far as a closing argument, as far as the statute is concerned, a compelling argument or a compelling need, I think what we have going is very compelling, and the guys, they need Saba. They need Saba. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've walked through and seen it. And if we can put it in our power as a board to do everything that we can, we need to do that. Because, like I said, we can start a model that can go on around the whole United States, and the state of North Carolina will be the first. So I'm just ending with that. Thank you.
And to add on to the additional finance is that if you guys are not aware that Saba was a recipient of the NC Access Grant, and we still have over $471,000 that can be utilized for those funds. We still have several thousands of dollars that has not been reimbursed to Saba. And again, when you talk about finances, every dollar really does matter. Every dime counts. So we definitely have followed through with our NC Access Grant responsibilities, submissions of budgets. But right now we need the funds given back to us so that we can continue to move forward. That's one of our payrolls, the amount of funds that the NC Access Grant owes us for reimbursement. And then still on top of that, we still have another $470,000+ that was awarded to us to be able to use. And we'd like to move forward to continue to use that and exhaust those funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Thoughts, comments from board members? And I'll start. I'm going to use the numbers they provided us in the slide deck. They've got total revenue projections of $987,000, of which $300,000 of that is either going to come from a daycare that does not yet exist and fundraising. If this were an applicant presenting a budget, that a third of their revenue was going to come from a daycare facility that doesn't yet have a single student and fundraising, we all know what we would say about that. I get it regarding the need for these boys, and there's a long track record of a lot of us on this board who voted yes because we do get it. And there's a state law that's not been met.
Ashley, can you pull back up the statute one more time?
I went back too and I was trying to get any kind of precedence here.
Previous school.
And there was one, I think, from 2018, Global Achievers School. I wasn't here then, I don't think. Same situation, very low enrollment. I believe had their charter revoked. I don't want to be misquoted on that. I think that's the case. And in the state board's review, they made the following comment: by signing the charter agreement, the board agreed to be accountable to the State Board of Education for purposes of ensuring compliance with applicable laws and provisions of its charter.
if I was an attorney, I don't want, go ahead, Alex, sorry.
I was just gonna ask, kind of to the point you were making, given the situation and given the requirement in law, what is actually within the capability of the board to do here? I mean, are there options? Are there different ways the board can go, or is it really just one way?
I second that question.
You mean in terms of whatever our options are today?
Today, going forward,
Well, there is certainly the option to revoke the charter, whether that be immediately or put a time frame on it.
I guess my question of the revocation of the charter versus the timeline of the school year is, the letter of the law versus the intent of the law is equivalent in this state. They don't have a compelling argument except for the existing children who are there, which was their responsibility to continue to meet their projected ADM or their expectation of the charter. So I don't see a decision. That's the part that I guess I'm struggling with here. It's unfortunate, and I feel terribly for those children, but we didn't write statute either.
I mean, I'm not an attorney, so I feel like this would be a question for the DOJ lawyers, but it says applicant. And that's been, we have just always applied that as the school is the same, right? Like that, because that's for like the application requirement.
Yeah, that's my point. I think that the compelling argument had to come out during the
Right.
application
That's what I'm
process.
saying.
Not, oh, we didn't hit our numbers, now let me give you a compelling reason why.
Right.
We wouldn't be having this argument if we didn't hit our numbers. If their number was 116. If they were at 90, we wouldn't be here today.
No.
But they're not at 90, they're at 50, which is below the statutory requirement.
I mean, I also, really the financial piece of this is inescapable, right? Because there was no talk of cutting staff, right?
Yeah, she said they said that they didn't fully hire what was in the budget because they didn't hit their.
But all of those people work there with the exception of one. That's nine staff for 50 kids. You can do the math. It's like 6 kids per adult. If you take out the bus drivers, it's 7.
The bus drivers are part of the administration staff.
Right, so if you take out the bus drivers, 50 divided by 7. I understand like the need is like we want to have small classrooms, but you kind of see that when you're facing a financial cliff. I guess my question is just like, I would have led with like, we've actually cut the staff down to the bone. Like you have no choice.
The scariest thing about this whole thing, and I'm from Chatham County, I can definitely see the need for this type of a school. The unfortunate part is that we are left with the decision of I'm looking at this budget and it says 51% of their funds are gone in the first 2 months. If they started fundraising today, in 2 months, their money's gone. I mean, right, because you're already 51% in 2 months, so in 2 more months, your money's gone. You know, so how do you continue to make payroll, pay the light bill,
So
the
with
rent,
that in
or
mind, I
anything
have a
else like
question.
that?
And that is, what happens when a charter school runs out of money?
They have to close.
They have to close.
And
what,
then
and,
they
and what
owe-
are the ramifications for
They owe debts.
the students at that point?
They have to
They
get
go
bounced
into
back to the
service.
district,
All right. And what happens if
which
we?
does not make districts happy.
I'm sure. I mean, my concern is even if we, and I'm not sure we have the leeway to leave them with their charter. But it seems to me that's inevitable whether we make that decision or not, that
Well, unless they raise the money or
unless they
stand up
raise
a-
the money.
I
So-
have no idea how you stand up a daycare that quickly.
And it's not guaranteed, even to get more kids or to better their lot. It's just not
No, I
guaranteed.
agree, and I hate it. I hate it for these
It's
students, and I
unfortunate.
hate it for these families. folks, they've had 3 years to get to the minimum. And the challenges that we all faced when we were opening up our schools, and some may be more unique because of the uniqueness of their audience.
It seems to me that to this point, Plan B, which is wrap up what we're doing, close the school, that's not on the table. They're not considering a Plan B. They're gonna expand one day across the country, okay? But they gotta make it 2 months. A decision now to close while they still have time to wrap things up, I think is kinder to those boys than we ran out of money yesterday, you're on your own.
Well, also, it allows the state to, they narrow the scope of the drops of funding to protect. Also, I had a question about the access funding that they cited, 400,000, Ashley?
Okay, yeah, there's a couple things I'd like to say. One, I think it's important that a decision is made today regarding something. The reasoning from our office's perspective and from, I believe, the agency as a whole is that, one, we're talking about state funding, which we have a fiduciary duty to protect. Two, if a decision is made to revoke the charter, then the school would get the opportunity to appeal to the state board. That takes time. There is, I believe there's a 60-day timeline for that process to be, to take place. We have to go through the closing procedures, which are very extensive and take a ton of resources from staff, not only in my office, but from legal, from finance and business, from any federal programs that they may be, if they have EC students, all of those things. And before I get to NC Access, I do also want to say that I want it to be very clear that our office supported this school as much as we possibly can. We also, in August, as they were pushing back the calendar and trying to increase enrollment, several notices went out to the school, including the one I've pulled up here, in which I've said I'd like to reiterate the options previously provided to the board, both in writing and in person, should the board believe it unable to enroll and maintain the minimum 80 students required by state law. You can relinquish, you can request a second delay, you continue to push back and continue enrollment efforts. That's what they decided to do. I also said, please use the attached information to guide your planning and decision making. Our priority is making sure that all schools open with a strong foundation financially and operationally. Should enrollment come in under 80 students, school business will place the school on financial noncompliance. Allotments will most likely be moved to monthly drops, and there will be an impact on the distribution of funding as numbers are trued up against the CSAD and projection of 116. So, from my office's perspective, we were very, very clear as we possibly could, about the repercussions of opening with enrollment that was not strong. And so I don't want there to be any misconceptions that the consequences and the possibilities were not very transparently communicated. For NC Access, I don't, the program administrator for that grant, Dr. Barbara O'Neill, manages those funds. When a school is on noncompliance or we have any concern that a school is especially fiscally unstable, we pause the funding. And I have communicated to Saba that Dr. O'Neill was waiting for this meeting in particular to determine what was going to happen with those remaining funds. I'd also like to say that NC Access is a reimbursement model, so you aren't just given, if you're awarded 500,000, you aren't just given to spend that money. That money comes back as a reimbursement. So you provide expenditures. Yeah, and it takes a long time. It does take a long time. So I hope that answered some of the questions that might be lingering.
And I think, to add on to what you said, Ashley, I think there was a comment made about your office making phone calls to families. I would think a month before school started, I'm calling those families myself to find out whether you're coming or not, so I can have an accurate number for the first day of school. So, I don't know. I mean, I hate that your office had to be put in a position to do that, to make sure that we were getting funding the right way. But that to me is the onus of the school. I mean, you got to know who's coming on the first day of school, Because I can guarantee, I got shocked. We did all that, and I still had 50-some kids not show up the first day of school in my new school, you know?
Yeah.
And as you've already heard, all the other charter schools that opened up this year had below numbers. Now, whatever reason that is, there's, you know, enrollment has been a struggle for everybody.
It's a competitive environment. I mean, one option that I would imagine they would have down the road would be to open as a private school with
Use
the
those
vouchers.
vouchers.
There's a lot of voucher funds available, and it could be kind of a middle road next year.
First thought I had in my mind, Alex,
Yeah.
about those vouchers. Yeah, again, I'm gonna say, I hate that this is the position that everyone especially the school, and the families that wanna be there. It's just the unknown of, I mean, well, there's a wall right in front of this school 2 months away. And a lot of things have gotta happen fast if you're counting on funds that people might give you. And especially, anybody that's gonna give money also is gonna be looking to see, you know, if I give you this and the school closes, where does that leave me? So I think, and I've tried to fundraise in Chatham County. I'm not saying anything particular about any, but it's hard to get, it's hard to get some money from Chatham County.
Any other thoughts or questions?
I hate it.
Were there any other proposed means of raising capital, raising money, besides golf and daycare? Was anything else presented?
We
heard it
asked.
for the-
Nope.
We heard that for the first time today, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the
Those are my
letter,
questions.
there was a Giving Tuesday campaign and a gala in March also on the list.
There were 3.
I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but like, a school that's like bleeding kids and under, like, how do you, I just don't know if people do. I mean, they have the 20,000 commitment, which is solid. I just think it's hard to raise money, especially for general operating. People wanna give to musical programs or things like that. It's hard to raise money for,
To help us pay the light bill.
we're bleeding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I go
he's-
back to what Ashley said, they knew this was coming. And here we are looking at just between personnel and building, them running out of money in January. The preschool not, or the daycare not open yet. I would think that fundraising would go back to being, in urgency mode well before now.
I agree, and I go back to, there's a statute that
That's
has a number.
You're right.
And I'd like
And we're
to,
not there.
outside of this discussion, I'd like us to consider for the future, when we don't have the story about how wonderful things are right now with the kids they've got, I'd like to get clarification on whether or not this statute even allows us to, yeah, I read it, but I'm not a lawyer. I think we need to have somebody look at this and tell us, somebody walks in and they don't have 80 students, what options do we have legally? Because it's not clear to me. Now, I think financially, this school can't make it. And so from a fiduciary perspective, I don't think I can, I would have to vote to revoke the charter. But if that weren't the case, right, if there wasn't that financial overhang that looks so terrible, I'm not sure what I would do, and therefore I think I ought to know what I really can do.
Maybe
I don't
that's
know
what,
right
maybe
now.
that gets clarified in the appeals process if it isn't revoked, because
Yeah, I
they do
mean,
have
that
the.
will, like, there's gonna be a lot of legal aspects to this.
So that lends to something that I think you know, I mean, we are where we are, but if we voted today to revoke the charter and they appealed to the state board, if their argument were more compelling, or they were further down the road, or they actually had some things happening with the state board, yeah, I don't know.
They got a big grant between now.
I think that's for the state
That
board
would
to
be for the
determine.
state board to consider,
It's not,
right?
it's
You
at
know,
that point, it's out
If
of our
someone
hands.
wrote them a $500,000 check, right, right now, the prospects are very slim.
I just made up numbers, like, so if they had 40 kids and they charged them $20 each per day for daycare, it'd make $16,000 a month before you're paying out, any salaries or anything else like that. So, at max, if that was the case, it'd be $162,000, or about $160,000 over a course of 10 months, which we only have 6 left, right? So, it's not very much money, I guess. Is what I'm saying.
Again, I think it goes back to we're having to find creative. I just don't find it very common that you're fundraising to pay your operational expenses. You're fundraising so that you can do things over and above what your board approved budget supplies for.
And if we vote their charter like today, that's, even if they go to the state board, that's the death sentence for their school, because you're gonna lose those 50, you're gonna lose half, because they're gonna see the writing on the wall that I need to go ahead and transfer it back to the traditional school. So even if they went forward, it's a death sentence, to be honest.
Well, realistically, it's probably what you guys said, Ashley, the appeal process would probably be at least 60 days, if not longer. I'm not an attorney, but I can read the law and kind of interpret what it says, and I don't know that, I don't know that we have a choice, or that's how I feel.
I just think it's also more about financially, to me, like, what is the best move to, as Ashley said, to protect state funds? And it does seem, we could, if you, we've been down this road before. We closed the school in October, that Global Achievers. It's not a lot of kids going back to the district, to be totally honest. But if we wait, and that's a possibility, I don't think statutorily, like, we're gonna get sued, or the legislature's gonna come to us and say, we're supposed to close that school. Lawyers might come back in a month and say, no, you have to. But if we wait until, I don't know, May, then it's like a whole nother year, basically. Cause then it's like, okay, can they get enrollment? You're already in another whole cycle, if they don't run out of money, but there's a strong possibility they will.
Doesn't seem
Because
like they'd make it to May.
making budget is fully based
At
on
all.
fundraising.
You got the
starting
whole
a daycare.
no indebtedness clause, the state's not gonna come
And
in.
if the statute had been more restrictive of what compelling reasons are, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but I agree with Alex, and I agree with Ashley that that compelling reason was tied to language that clearly stated the applicant.
Yeah,
They're no longer the applicant.
right.
And if you kick it down the road, it'll freaking be inevitable. So you say, we can't make the decision till November, but our November meeting's only in 2-3 weeks. And
Right.
you say they do it to December, and then at December, you're at the point where they don't have any more money, unless something drastically happens.
I
Okay,
also think that pretty much every school, I don't know, I haven't seen the data, but that we have recommended for closure has appealed.
Has a what?
Has appealed. I mean, I can't think of one that didn't appeal. Maybe
correct.
Invest Collegiate recently.
Yeah.
I think they maybe decided not to.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
Um,
right.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I don't think anyone wants to make that
No.
motion.
That is true.
But I will move that the charter be rescinded.
Get a second.
I'll second it.
I have a motion to revoke the charter for Saba. We have a second. Any further discussion? I'll ask this question. Do we need to put a timeline on that motion, say revocation effective?
I would probably do that.
Okay. Could I, Mr. Daniels, Dr. Daniels, could I get you to consider changing your motion slightly that says revocation upon by on or before December 31st, 2023?
Is that a date that works well?
It
Yeah,
needs to
then
be-
I would,
That's the right time.
I would move that the charter be revoked on or before December 31st, 2023.
Can we get a second to that?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Ashley, let's do a roll call vote.
Bruce Friend,
Aye.
Stephen Gay,
No.
Hilda Parlay,
Approves.
Alex Quigley,
Aye.
Todd Godby,
Nay.
Shelley Shope,
Aye.
Bart Danielson,
Aye.
John Eldridge.
Aye.
Okay, it passes 6-2.
Sorry, I gotta go.
Saba, we will send you information about the appeal process, and we will go from there.
All right, thank you so much. Reminder, we do meet tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. We have 3 new applicants to review tomorrow, and then 1 reconsideration. We've already had the director update, so we'll see everybody at 9 o'clock. Safe travels.
Are we adjourned?
Adjourned.
What I would like to see on our agenda one day is